Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Connor, and thank you for your willingness to serve. Certainly appreciate that. My first question was going to be very similar to what the chairman asked, in that your prior experience has been at the Bureau of Reclamation. Wondering, there's certain areas, obviously, of the Corps navigation and flight risk management that are areas of core responsibility that you didn't really actually deal with over at Reclamation. I didn't know if you wanted to address that issue more deeply, how you're going to, get up to speed on that. I mean, obviously, you've already done a lot of research in that area.
Sure, Senator. Thank you. There was an overlap. Certainly, the Bureau of Reclamation's mission with respect to water supply in particular is fairly unique, although the Corps does have water supply responsibilities, and I talked to Senator Kramer about that. But also, there is lots of overlap, and I do think where that experience will pay off, particularly in flood risk management. Part of the fundamental mission of the Bureau of Reclamation was also flood control. Worked very closely in the Central Valley of California with respect to Folsom Dam on a coordinated flood management program, fortification of that dam and its spillway with the Corps, jointly managing a construction project. And the river restoration, the aquatic ecosystem restoration program that the Corps has. In partnership, we did work with the Corps at the Bureau of Reclamation, and on its own, Reclamation also had similar significant river restoration opportunities. So I think there is a lot of parallels, experience that will directly apply. As I mentioned, there are areas where I need to get up to speed. I'll just mention one of the hydropower, obviously, was very, very similar in the approach that we had to take to manage that resource, deal with changes, effects of a fluctuating water supply these days, and that will be similar with the Corps.
Right. That's going to be critical. Now, on the flood risk management, we had a terrible flood in 2016. I might have mentioned this on the phone with you, that took 23 lives and destroyed more than 1,000 homes in West Virginia. And the Corps has been very active to try to help us prevent such things as happen. I did put initial funding into the Kanawha River Basin feasibility study to determine what additional projects might be needed to improve this flood risk management. So I'm going to ask you today, will you continue to work with me on that to initiate this study?
Absolutely.
Thank you. We did talk on the phone about the length of time it takes for certain permitting. By the time you get all the different agencies and different coordinations between state and local, I guess, and federal. I guess my question is not so much the length of time, but in your experience, do you think that that states are capable of protecting environmental resources such as water resources within their own borders? How do you see that interplay of cooperative federalism playing out?
I think the easiest answer is yes, states are fully capable of protecting their water resources. At the same time, we obviously have a system where there are state laws that apply, there are state responsibilities under federal law, and there are federal responsibilities. So we have to improve that cooperative federalism. It is absolutely critical. I am a very strong proponent of making our permitting processes as efficient as possible. Given the challenges that we face, we need to make decisions. We need to work collaboratively with state and local communities, and we need to sync up, particularly amongst federal agencies. I was a member of the FAST 41 task force that worked on permitting efficiencies. We need to keep the thoroughness of the reviews, but there is lost time in the lack of coordination. We need to improve upon that at the federal level, and then take that to the next step, work in partnership with the states.
I certainly agree with that. I mean, when you look at the different agencies that weigh in on whatever project it might be, Fish and Wildlife, EPA, the Corps, by the time you go through the permitting process of all that, you're into years, and years not only don't solve the problem, but they also cost a lot of money at the same time. And a lot of people walk away from projects at certain periods of time because they just obviously can't afford to stay in the process. So however we can help you with that, we'd certainly like to see the thoroughness there, but also the timeliness at the same time. My last question for right now is on the WOTUS rule. I mentioned it in my opening statement. I know you're not at the Corps yet, but the rationale for taking the WOTUS regulations, we obviously saw it in court all over the country with sort of mixed results in terms of who's acting under it, who isn't. A lot of confusion for a lot of different range of whether it's personal, golf courses, agriculture, whatever it might be. So what challenges do you think the Corps will face including related to obtaining permits for core projects if a new WOTUS definition is finalized that is more expansive than the 2015 rule?
Well, the rule has changed so many times over the years that I'm not sure the challenges are going to be any different. We need to have a clear definition of waters of the U.S., one that is protective as it should be under the Clean Water Act, but one that provides clarity. And I think, the goal, from what I understand, in embarking upon a new rule is to work very closely with the affected parties under that rule. And so my goal would be to have a clear rule that has enough level of input that hopefully we can get out of this litigation cycle, and that we can move on with a rule that's going to be in place for a number of years. That should be the goal. That will do the most, I think, to help the Corps in its permitting ability and its responsibilities for making jurisdictional determinations if we have some clarity and we have some longevity to the next rule. And that's going to require some collaboration, working with stakeholders, and I believe that's the game plan.
Thank you. Well, we'll be watching that and appreciate your input on that. Thank you.